yes, my name's Paul and I work at Indulge Media. And we're a web design and digital agency in Oxford. And we're also based in Guernsey in the Channel Islands, which is lovely. But today I wanted to talk about choice architecture and really just cover the topic of choice, because I think that as consumers, we face loads of choice in everything we do. And as marketers, I don't know if we necessarily give enough thought to the choices that we present our customers with. So today I just want to sort of run through, oh, sorry, I think I've lost my screen there. Give me 1 second. So today I want to run through some examples of why choice can be challenging and what we can do as marketers to improve the choice we give people. So it's about UX, it's about giving people a better experience when they come to our website and turning them into happy customers. And so throughout this, this session, I'm going to sort of introduce a few people who have inspired this talk. And the first of those is a man called Barry Schwartz. He's a psychologist in the US, and he's written many books, one of which is The Paradox of Choice. And in it, he presents something that he calls the official dogma of all Western industrial societies. And it goes like this. He says that in society, we try to focus on improving the welfare of society. And we've decided the way to do that is to increase the amount of freedom that everybody has. And then we've decided that the best way to increase the amount of freedom is to increase the amount of choice that everybody has. And so in practice, that sort of looks like this. So if we have a choice of one, which is represented here, then that's no choice. And I think we'll all agree that we can't really be very happy with that. And so what we've done as in society is we've introduced some choice. So we've said, here's a few options. And I think we'd all agree again that that would make us happier. And because of that, we've said, okay, well then surely if we introduce this, we've got more choice still. That will make us even happier. And I think that's a manageable amount. We can probably pick a good option from that. But we haven't stopped there. And this is the problem, where we've now presented so much choice that we can't even see all of our options. So no matter what we're choosing, we've got so many options that we need to really spend time and energy working out what we need. And so to give you some sort of real life examples of how this is a problem, let's pretend I'm looking to purchase a washing machine. So I might go to Google and search for washing machines, and they bring me back just shy of 1 billion results. And obviously I'm not going to go and look through each of those results, but I'll click on the first one, and that will take me to this website, the Currys PC World website, and they'll show me their results on their website for washing machines. And they'll give me 20 on the first page, but there would be 206 different products to choose from that I need to then work through. And it's not practical to go and review each and every product and decide which one is best for me. So what the website does is it provides filters, and there are 16 in this case, and we need to go through each one, work out which option we need. And you can go into real granular detail, including noise level, which I find a bit odd because you're never going to really choose a noisy washing machine. You always want the quietest one you can get. So that's a challenge, but maybe washing machines are a bad example because they're a big purchase. They're something you only do every few years. And so maybe you're willing to spend the time and energy in picking the right one. So what about something a bit more mundane? So if I wanted to purchase some porridge, I might go to the Ocado website and I'll navigate to the right section of the website that shows me the different types of porridge they have on offer. And there are 161 products. And obviously, again, I don't really want to go browsing through 160 odd different types of porridge. So I might use the filter that they provide me, and I can pick whether it's instant or traditional. There are 20 different brands, but to be honest, unless you're an expert, that's not going to mean much to you. You can then pick through the options. So you can use, you can decide whether you want some healthy porridge, whether it needs to be on offer, new. You can even go for top offers if the normal offers aren't good enough for you. And then there are 11 different dietary and lifestyle options as well. So eventually you're going to filter it all down and you'll find the perfect porridge for you. But it doesn't end there, because then the website gives you the chance to go and add, sprinkle some berries on it as well. So you get to decide whether you actually want to buy the berries with it as well. So the choice is never ending. And as marketers, we have a habit of throwing choice at people. And so this forces our customers to kind of be one of two things. So there's either the satisficer or the maximizer. And as you'll kind of understand in a moment, as consumers, we tend to jump from one to the other depending on what we're buying. We'll sit within one at any given time. If we're looking at the scale of the worst result to the best result, they'll be focused on avoiding the worst result. And as long as they avoid picking the worst thing for them, they'll be happy with whatever they end up with. And so as a process, that looks like this. They'll set a criteria, they'll find the result that ticks all of the boxes, and then they'll make that choice. So as an example, they might be looking to rent a flat, and they'll say it needs to be within this price range, it needs to have this many bedrooms, and it needs to be within 5 minutes of the train station. And as soon as they find a property that matches those three things, they'll tick those boxes, and then they'll make that choice, and that's it, done, and they've saved energy there. At the other end of the scale is the maximizer, and they look at everything in the opposite way. So they'll aim for the best result, and they won't be happy unless they achieve the best result and that they're confident that they have. And if they end up anywhere else, they won't be happy. And their process looks a bit like this. So they'll aim for perfection. They'll search, they'll do some testing, they'll research, they'll read all of the reviews, and they'll just do as much work as they can do to make sure that whatever choice they make is the right one for them. It's a much more involved process. It uses a lot more energy. And I think if we were to ask ourselves, whenever we're purchasing anything, do we want to end up with the best result? We'd all say yes. But in reality, we don't want to go through this process every single time. And so what we do is we end up being satisficers who pick the basics of what we need and then are satisfied with that, rather than going through all of the energy that's required to be a maximizer. So in the real world, again, that sort of looks like this. So if we were to go, if you're going for a meal at Wagamama, a maximizer might look at the menu, see all of the options, and we'll go through the menu in good detail. We'll ask around for what's the best choice for them. They'll really think about it and choose the one that they're confident is going to be a good meal for them. Or if you're like me and you're a satisficer in that situation, you'll just go for the meal you've had before because you know you liked it last time. It might not be the most tasty recipe on the menu, but you'll be happy because you know that it's not going to be the worst result, and you won't have wasted an opportunity. And so that's where I want to introduce the second expert. It's Daniel Kahneman, who's a lot of you would have heard of. He's a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, author of a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And one of the revolutionary ideas that he introduces in that book is that mental energy is more than just a metaphor. So mental energy is a real thing that you can actually use up. And so it kind of works like this. It kind of explains that Red Bull kind of does give you wings. So there was a funny story a few years back when Red Bull had to start paying customers back money because they'd proven in court that it doesn't give you wings. Probably a PR stunt, but anyway, it kind of illustrates the point. But really, it's true that the nervous system consumes real glucose, and mental activity actually drains that store of glucose. So in effect, the more decisions you need to make in a period of time, the more energy you use up in that process, and the less able you are to make satisfactory decisions later on in the day. So you can actually tire yourself out when you're presented with too much choice. And so that's where I want to introduce the third and fourth experts, so Thaler and Sunstein, who wrote the book Nudge, and they introduced the idea of choice architecture. And that's all about saying that we understand the idea that choice presents these problems and it drains people of their energy. And so what we need to do as marketers, or anybody actually giving people a choice, is we need to structure them in such a way that makes life easier and makes choice our customers. And so what they did is they packaged it into sort of 6 really useful, usable principles. And so what I'm going to do in the next sort of step is to run through some examples that just illustrate how each of these principles work in the real world, because I think that's the best way to get a grasp of what you can actually do to use these principles whenever you're planning a website and planning an improvement. So the first one is the incentives principle. So it's the idea that you have to provide an incentive to your customers for whatever it is they need to do. So the best example of this is the We Buy Any Car website. So the website wants you to go and get a valuation on your car because they want to purchase it from you. And so the incentive here is that all you need to do is enter in your registration number, click the Value My Car button, and you'll get you'll get a valuation. So in this case, the incentive isn't that they're offering you something of a positive. It's more that they're removing a negative by saying that this is such an easy process to do that why wouldn't you do it? So the incentive is, why wouldn't I do this? It wouldn't take me any energy at all. And if you compare this with their rivals, you'll see that this is the most simple way of going about it. The second principle is the idea of mapping complex ideas into people's real lives. So it's mapping the experience they'll have into their real life. And so a good example of this is if you need to buy storage space to store some stuff that you've got cluttering up your house, you might have trouble visualizing what the dimensions on the website mean in relation to the amount of boxes and furniture that you have in your house. And so what this website has done in the US, Extra Space Storage, is it's put together some simple graphics that show the storage space, and it shows items of furniture and boxes dropping into the space in a little graphic, and it immediately gives you a sense of what that storage unit will hold. And so what this website is doing is it's cleverly mapping what you're purchasing on the website into your real life. It makes you understand what you're going to experience when you buy this service. The third principle is about setting defaults. So there's a lot of research that shows that consumers are most likely to go with the default option. It's why your phone will encourage you to turn on default updates when new software becomes available, because they know that it will make your phone safer. And it's the same for websites. So in the case of donating to charity, so the UNICEF website, you can go to the donate page and you're presented with various options of how often you want to donate and how much you would like to donate. But it comes preset with some defaults. So the default is a monthly donation of a kind of mid-range value of £16. And they know that this is a good default because obviously as a charity, they need the donations to come on a regular basis. So having that monthly one is useful for them. And a mid-range amount is something that many people on the website will be able to afford. So they know this is a good default. We know a lot of our donations will come from people who think this is acceptable, and it saves them having to choose for themselves because they know what a normal amount is. The next principle is all about providing feedback. And how many times have you been on a website where you will have added something, or you think you've added something to the cart, the shopping cart, but you're not quite sure if you have, and so you might click the add to cart button again, or you might go and check the add to cart and it's not there, or you've added 2 or 3, and it all becomes a bit of a mess. And it's these little things that create those extra little choices people need to make. And so this website that sells quite cool design towels and things like that, when you click their add to cart button, it gives you a simple piece of feedback, which is an overlay over the site that just shows you exactly what you've added to cart. So there's no mistaking what you've just done. And that just helps you to know that you're on the right track. You know that you've added the right thing, or if you haven't, you know that you can go to the cart and remove it. And it just keeps you in line with what the website wants to do. So it's important to always provide that feedback no matter what it is people are doing on your website. The fifth principle is all about expecting an error. So there's a couple of examples of this. The one that you'll probably be most familiar with is when you're trying to send an email through an email client, and you'll say, please find attached such and such, and then you'll click send, and it will remind you that you haven't attached whatever it is you were supposed to. And so it stops you sending the email before you make that mistake. So they've expected you to make an error, and they fixed it before it even happened. And so another good example of this, and again, you'll see this around a lot, is when you type something meaningless into a search bar. So here on the gov.uk website, which is a triumph in terms of UX anyway, if you search something meaningless, it gives you a page that says, we haven't found what you were looking for, but here's a few options. You can try searching again, or remove some filters, or perhaps what you're searching for does exist, but it's in the National Archive because it was published before 2010. So they're expecting people to make mistakes and search for the wrong things, but they're telling you, here's what you can do about it. Here's how we can fix that before it causes too much of an issue. And the final principle is all about structuring complex concepts. So a really good example of this is when you're buying a mobile phone and you need to choose a data plan to go on. And so it's all measured in gigabytes. And to the average Joe, this doesn't mean anything in the real world. So nobody measures anything in gigabytes when they're working throughout the day. Even if you work online all day, you rarely think about how many gigabytes you're using. And so what the confused.com website does is it says you can choose the data allowance, and then you can choose what it is you need to do on that. So in this case, it's how many tracks you can stream on Spotify. So immediately you're structuring a complex concept, which is an intangible measurement, and you're turning it into something that actually means something to people in their real lives. So they're the principles, but they're really powerful actually when you combine them. And the best websites put them all together and come up with some successful results. So in this case, you might want to buy this nice orange jumper, and you may go to click to add to cart. Now, if I do that, what I find is that I forgot to choose the size that I need to purchase. But rather than tell me that I forgot to choose the size, it simply just brings up the fields to so that I can click on the size I need. The minute I click on the correct size, it adds it to cart. So the process is seamless. I don't need to go back and choose the size and then start again. It just does it all in the right step. And so this is using the feedback principle. It's saying, yes, we know you tried adding to cart, but here, choose your size first. It's expecting an error. It's expecting me to miss the fact that I need to pick my size first. And it's given me an incentive. It's so easy. It's part of the process I was going through anyway, that I don't need to stop. I don't need to go back and change what I was doing. So the incentive is that there's just no extra effort required. The next example of a good combination is this website that sells a new design of wallet, and their selling point is that they sell slimmer wallets. So they've specially designed a wallet that is slimmer than your average wallet. And if you were to describe that to someone in words, it's quite hard to get across the point that it genuinely is quite a slim design. And so what they've done is they've just compared an average wallet next to this one. And then they provided a simple slider that lets you move along this, adding different amounts of cash to the wallet. And it shows you how these two wallets react differently to the amounts of stuff put inside them. And so it's a clear indication of what you can expect. So it's structuring a complex idea. So you're structuring the idea that this is a genuinely different design, and this is how it will reduce the amount of size you need to carry around with you all day. And the incentive, again, is that thing of it's such a simple thing to do. There's no extra effort required to quickly check this, that you're going to do it anyway. So again, another good combination. The next example of where this has been all combined is House of Fraser website, where they expect their customers to purchase clothes on their website and then inevitably find that they've picked the wrong sizes and will send back their orders. And this is probably quite a costly error for the company. So that, you know, if they can get people to buy the correct size first of all, the customers are going to be happier in the long run, and the company will be happier because they don't have to deal with so many returns. And so what they've done is they've installed this this clever piece of software that asks you a quick questionnaire about which clothes normally fit you well, which brands fit you well. They ask for a few measurements in terms of height and stuff like that. And once you've answered about 3 or 4 questions, the website will then rate every other piece of clothing on the website that is similar to the one that you looked at first, and will give it a rating based on how well it is likely to fit you. And so this means that you can now browse the website and you can see essentially like a 5-star rating of different clothes and how well they'll fit you. So you can choose the perfect size and be confident that what you're buying is the right thing for you. So again, the website has expected the error, so it's expected you to buy something that doesn't fit. It's structuring a complex idea because understanding the correct size with loads of different brands is a tricky thing to do. So they've done it for you. There's an incentive because it's worthwhile going through these few steps in order to be to have a better experience when you receive your delivery and not have to go to the post office and send it back. And they're giving you a default, so the star ratings throughout the site then provide that default anchor that says this will fit you well, this won't, and you'll be able to browse the site much more effectively, and it's just a better process. And then the final example of how this has been done well is on the Currys PC World website. And if you search for a product, you might be on a product page, and it's quite common for people to copy and paste the product name into Google again and find that product on other websites to see if they can get it cheaper. And what Currys PC World has done is it's expected people to miss the fact that they offer a price match. Even up to 7 days after you've purchased it, they'll still match the price or beat it even. And then, so when you highlight a piece of text and click copy, it gives you this little hover that shows you that that they've got this price promise, and so it just highlights to you this extra offer that you might have missed before. So they've expected you to miss that offer in the first instance. The website is giving you feedback. It knows that you've just copied that text, and it's just saying, unobtrusively, it's just giving you a quick nudge to say, here, don't forget about this. And the incentive as well is that it's a pretty good offer. So so you're probably willing to read it and understand it and potentially come back and buy that. And actually, I purchased this hard drive after I saw that because it was the cheapest price. So how do you actually make this happen? So as a marketer, how do you apply these principles? Well, I think there are a few key things you need to keep in mind. The first one is that you need to start with the choice that you want people to make and then work backwards. And the choice needs to be something that the customer will be happy with. So it needs to be something that's fair to them, it needs to be good value to them, and something that they'll go away and be pleased about, and that they won't have to spend too much energy on, and it won't be a draining experience for them. So you work out what that scenario is, and then you work backwards from the start point of where the customer is at the very beginning, and how do you take them from the start to that choice. And then once you've sort of thought about that, you need to then identify throughout that entire process, where do people have to make certain decisions along the way? Where do they have to take an action? And where do they have to do things that use up energy, essentially? And you need to find the tough ones, and you need to simplify them. So you need to say where a tough decision is, and you need to try and pare it back as much as possible. And then you need to also review each step the customer goes through and remove every unnecessary one that you can. And it sounds like a simple concept, but in practice, it really takes a lot of work. But the hard work should be done by the marketer, not by the customer. So go through this process and really pare back everything you can. And then you need to focus on just allowing the customer to save as much energy as possible. So again, go through the entire process and really review how can I help my customer save that mental energy so that they can make better decisions and not have to waste time and energy fighting through the process that we put in front of them. And I think there are two key phases in any project where these ideas are really, really important, and that you can actually tick all of the boxes. The first stage is when you're creating an information architecture or a sitemap, and you're mapping out the flow well, you're mapping out the content of your website, and you have to start at that stage thinking about what's the journey my customer is going to go through. Where is it they're going to start? What do I want to see them first? What do I want them to see first? And where would I like them to end up? And you need to really work out how they're going to filter through the site, or how they're going to filter through any process that you're putting together, and how they can sort of get to where they need to get energy as possible. So it's super important. And in any project I work on, whether it's working on a website that exists already, or whether we're planning a new one, I put a lot of effort in at this stage of mapping out the journey and really thinking about this. Whether you do it with post-it notes or with a tool online, it's so important to do this and get people involved as well. User testing at this stage is also important. And then the second stage, where this is a really important thing, is when you're wireframing. So if you come up with an idea of how to improve a user journey to give them a better choice, you need to think about all of the principles of choice architecture before you worry about design, before you worry about the ins and outs of what the content is actually going to say word for word. You just need to sort of use something that is a simple simple layout that shows you where all of the key bits of information will go. So in this example, it's saying that the column, the panel on the right-hand side will be some feature that will map the experience the customer will get to their real life. So that's like using the example of the website that showed you the storage units. You may have a default option on any form that you have. So if there's a form where they need to choose some options, you provide them with a default, and at this stage you would work out what those defaults are, and then you give them a clear instruction, and you focus at this stage on saying this is all this page needs to do. Everything else is just surplus to requirements, and we can get rid of it, because the most important thing is that the customer has a clear journey. And so if you're not convinced that that applying these principles isn't useful, just look at the example of the UK government, who introduced in 2012 automatic enrollment. So this meant that people working in the UK previously could join a company pension, but it was an opt-in scheme. So they were offered the chance, and then they could say, yes, I want to opt in. And the government made a small change where they said, actually, now it's an opt-out. So now the company will give you a pension scheme, and you have to say, no, I don't want it. And so what they've done is they've shifted the default position from being, I need to opt into this scheme, to now I need to opt out. And so as a person who needs to save for retirement, you start to think, I'll go with the default option. And so as you can see from this graph, the results have been incredible. Over the last few years, the number of people enrolled into pensions has just shot up, and it's exactly what they wanted to achieve. And this is directly as a result of work carried out by the experts that we've referenced in here. So I really recommend you you start reading their stuff and you get to know who they are, because the insights that they can offer can revolutionize the way you plan what you do online. And so I think essentially to wrap up, you need to accept your role as a choice architect. If you work in marketing, you're a choice architect. You should understand these principles and start applying them to make your customers' lives better. And that's it from me.